Good morning, everybody, and this is Burke Lyle Sports Talk. And news that I want to report on today: the Atlanta Braves have signed Yasiel Puig to a one-year deal, and this comes about a little over a week before opening day. And yes, Yasiel Puig is an Atlanta Brave. So, I was reading a few articles about it, MLB.com, The Athletic, and there's one article written in The Athletic by Jeff Schultz asking, is Puig worth the risk? And again, here's the thing. If this doesn't work out, Puig will be Brave for 2 months, and they can move on. It's not for very much money at all. It's a one-year deal. It's very quick, and the reason why the Braves signed Yasiel Puig is it's not like they're after him for months. Nick Markakis opted out to play, so now all of a sudden in your outfield, you would have Marcell Ozuna in left, Acuna in center, and then you put Puig in right. So that would be your outfield. And does Puig even play every day? Is he a potential platoon option? Just maybe Christian Pache was looking for MLB experience, play more in center, and then maybe slide Acuna into right, or so on. How much does Puig play? Is he an everyday player? Does he play in half the games? How many games does he play? And at most, Puig will play 60 games, which is about a third of a season. So again, Puig could go through a great stretch where maybe it's 300, hits 10 home runs, plays really good, and gets other offers, or could struggle at 200 and barely have any power at all, and not really, and have trouble signing elsewhere. So again, for Puig, this is an opportunity, like it was in LA, to play in the playoffs and potentially have a run, make a run at the World Series. I mean, this could be a huge opportunity for Puig. And regardless, I think these are a critical third of the season. Doesn't really have much time. So again, this is kind of, in these 60 games, I think he has to perform well if he wants to have a lot of free agent offers. Since again, Puig is 29, is going to be 30 this December. Harder to believe. Seems like just yesterday they came up with the Dodgers. So again, yes, this does generate news, since yes, Puig does have a job, and this is one of the players. This is probably one of the more well-known players in baseball. The things he does gets a lot of attention. Whether that's spectacular outfield throws, long home runs. At times you could look like you could put together a great highlight reel of Yasiel Puig with that throw to third from the wall, or a 450-foot home bat flip home run. We've seen Puig play a lot in the playoffs. Played in the playoffs his first 6 years of his career. Barely missed last year for the Indians. So again, being in LA all those years, being on a franchise like the Dodgers, and playing in the World Series, we've gotten to know who Puig is. I think he's probably one of the more famous players in baseball, even if it's not particularly at an all-star level. So kind of want to go back to the beginning, kind of talking about his career. Go back to, say, 2013. Came to the league at 319. 19 home runs, 42 RBIs, about 100 games. Came second in Rookie of the Year voting that year. And we remember when he came up, set the world on fire. I think he hit 400 his first month in the MLB. It was really exciting. The MLB world was just kind of that spark plug the Dodgers needed that year. Was an all-star in year 2. Hit almost 300, 19 home runs. 16 home runs, actually a drop-off in power. And his stolen bases totals were pretty much the same, 11. Steals, caught 8 times, caught 7 times. So we thought Puig was on his way to becoming an all-star caliber player. And we thought it would get better and better. We thought it would be one of the next MLB stars, saying at age 22 and 23. And that has not happened since then. He had 11 home runs back-to-back years in 2015, 2016. In fact, I remember in 2016 he hit 255 and 263, playing 79 and 104 games, so half a season. And less than half a season, had less than 400 plate appearances in each season, had less than 100 hits each year. RBI totals were pretty identical, stole combined. Just 8 bases. So you look at numbers like that. I remember, he got sent down to AAA. I remember didn't even play in the playoffs that year. In 2016, the Cubs, I think it was mostly Josh Reddick that was the starting right fielder. I remember grounded out to end the series against the Cubs, as the LCS, as the Cubs won their first pennant since 1945. I remember that. And then 2017-18, Puig came back, played 152 games that year at 28 home runs. 74 RBIs, actually a career high at the time. His average, while is more the same, kind of in the 260 range, kind of at 263, 267 both of those years. Stole 15 bases, at that time a career high. 74 and 63 RBIs, so his power was back. Was really starting to come back. Looked like he was playing harder. Looked like we were starting to see him come back and then get straight to Cincinnati. And reading that recent article where and again, this is all paraphrasing, where Puig mentioned, no, now that's a contract year, we'll need to play harder. So confessed to not play as hard as at times, sure. In times in LA, it looks like plays as hard as anybody, but other times, I don't think he was putting in full effort. I mean, was he putting in full effort if he got sent down to AAA? Was he playing at that full of effort? Where was his effort there? And there was controversy, and also reading, there's players like Kershaw wasn't a huge fan of Puig. There's plenty of Dodgers players that did not like Yasiel Puig, or maybe didn't like him, but maybe had a harder time dealing with him. Could have been a distraction in the clubhouse at times for a team trying to win a World Series, and maybe he wasn't all in like the rest of the players. And Dave Roberts said it was hard to hear him say that he wasn't giving his best effort, considering that many players, or most players in this organization, do. And you think about the Dodgers, how successful the franchise has been, and maybe Puig not making him, maybe he didn't make the most of his opportunity in LA, even if it did result in 2 World Series appearances, or constantly in the playoffs every year. So we'll see. I think he did come back, and then last year gets traded to Cincinnati, and he hits 267, which again is average. Really, the last 3 years has been 263, 263, 267, 267. So in the last 4 years in the 260s. His power numbers at 24 home runs. But the funny thing is, he hit 22 in Cincinnati. I mean, maybe it's the difference in ballpark. Like Cincinnati, a lot more home runs fly out of the yard than fly out of the yard in LA, one of the premier pitchers' parks. Actually stole 14 bases in Cincinnati, and then gets traded to Cleveland. His average is 297, which again was over a 48 game sample. And he had 2 home runs, 23 RBIs. So last year he stole 19 bases, a career high, and hit 24 home runs, which was also the second highest total of his career. So Puig actually had quite a good year, but in Cleveland, this was an Indians team that was high when they got him, and won 93 games, but barely missed the playoffs because, last year we talked about at length, the A's won 97 games and the Rays won 96 or 95, whatever that total may have been. So again, in expanded playoffs, the Indians would have easily made it to the playoffs. I think that may be the last time we ever see a team that wins 90 games, certainly 93 games or more, and misses the playoffs. So again, in 47 games, the Indians, 49 games. And again, Puig, given what's going to happen, my guess is he plays maybe 50 games. I don't think he's going to play all 60 games. The most he's ever played is 152 and 148. Last year played 149 games. So if Puig plays, say, 50 games, maybe a little bit more, 54 games. So what he did last year in Cleveland, if Puig gets approximately 200 plate appearances, and by the way, not much doubles power. His career on doubles is 37 last year at 30 doubles, 15 doubles in Cleveland. So the question is, does he have power or not? Is Puig at about in 2/3 of a year when he played in 100 games, which is approximately 2/3 of a year, on pace to hit 33 home run power and drive in around 90 runs and steal 20 bases? So again, what do we get from Puig? Could he go through a stretch where it's 10 home runs, and maybe it's over 300, and maybe drives in 40 runs and really puts together? Or is it like it is in Cleveland, where he doesn't have power, maybe drives in some runs, drives in 20 runs, steals a few bases? So what are we going to see out of that? So that's the question. I don't know. And what he does in Cleveland, is that acceptable for the Braves? Is that good enough, even if it is a high average? Is that what's going to get him offers? I don't know. And like I said, My guess is with Puig is this is such a small sample size. I mean, maybe it's like when Manny Ramirez was on the Dodgers, just got so hot. I mean, could you replicate what Manny did in that stretch? No, I don't think so. But this is just a small sample size in Atlanta, and if can do what he did in Cleveland, I think this will. I think we'll probably get another 1 year deal to have a full season to prove it. Since again, it's so hard to see the numbers this year. We will know what he does either way. I think he's going to get a 1 year deal. I think the only way he gets a multi-year contract is if he plays really well, probably about what he did in Cincinnati in a full season. I think really has to play great this year. Otherwise, he's going to have to settle for another 1 year deal. And that's the thing about the Braves, as I said at the top of the show, is if you bring in Puig and causes a lot of clubhouse issues, really struggles, he can just be gone within 2 months, maybe even sooner than that. So Puig will probably only be a Brave for 2 months. I don't think he's not a long-term option. He's going to turn 30 this year. I think he's going to go elsewhere. So again, it's going to be a quick 2 month cameo, and again, however how it works out. If it doesn't work out, that's easy for the Braves. You know, last year Josh Donaldson worked out great in Atlanta last year for 1 year. They only had to pay that much money 1 year. Went to Minnesota for 5 years. So again, the Braves, I don't think they're interested in paying Puig a lot of money, a 30-year-old a lot of money. Maybe some other organization can do it. Maybe you'll go to someone like the Marlins, maybe a rebuilding team on the rise. I don't know, but again, we've heard about his antics. We've heard about his past issues. You know, if there are problems, the Braves don't have to deal with it for long. So we'll see. Could be a good move, or maybe provide so much energy to the Braves. I don't know what the Braves are getting out of Puig. I think it's uncertain. Early in his career, we thought he was an all-star. Then we thought, is he a major leaguer? Then kind of came back his last 2 years in L.A. But then we heard he was not playing at full effort all the time. And then we saw kind of two halves last year. We saw kind of a power half where he was hitting a lot of home runs. Seemed like really producing. Then we saw another half where we didn't know what he was in Cleveland. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Do we get Cincinnati power? Do we get Cleveland power? What is his average? What happens in that year? And by the way, is going to get a physical, and the thing is going to have to go through a COVID test. So if he somehow tests positive, I think that will really delay the signing. So the signing's not even official, but it's probably going to happen. It's probably going to work out. In this COVID era, it is much harder to sign players. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Puig and how this all works out. Just to be honest, I don't know how it's going to work. I think it's an uncertainty. You know what it is? It's low risk, maybe high reward, maybe medium reward. So we'll see what happens with the Braves organization. I think it's a questionable signing, but it could help them. It could help them during this run. Puig has a lot of playoff experience. And again, in his postseason career, in 202 plate appearances in the playoffs, as a 280 hitters at 5 home runs. In the playoffs, so he's had his fair share of playoff moments for sure. So again, maybe that's what they need. Someone like that. So we'll see how this works. You know, it'll be interesting to read about how this went in Atlanta, how this all worked out, and I'm interested to see how this all works. So again, thank you for listening. Yasiel Puig is probably a Brave this year. Nothing official yet. That's another storyline, by the way. Just want to share some other brief Braves news. Mike Soroka will be the opening day starter for the Braves this year. Congratulations to him. He's 22, almost 23. Had an all-star caliber year last year. Had a really good postseason start. You know, I think he's one of the pitchers on the rise. I think will be really good for this team for a long time. As a young starter on a team that's going to be good for a long time. So, good for him. Congratulations to Mike Soroka on starting on opening day at age 22. It'll be interesting to see what type of year Mike Soroka has. So, again, thank you for listening. This is Berkeley Sports Talk. We'll see you next time. Opening day, 8 days away.